It was a meme of like, actually, I can't remember the meme properly. I'm not gonna try to explain it. It would just been really funny if Megalass popped up and then Flash just screamed like ran away.
God. I'm happy I started it now.
Oh, so am I.
So we got that last 15 seconds there, at least of a starter. Yeah, Pandy, there's no real intro into this podcast. It's just normally we try to have a conversation and I cut somewhere in the middle of it, so no one knows what we're really talking about before. Yeah, but everyone, welcome back to episode number 17 of For the Love of Prod, and I just realized I have a fucking hole in my sock. As always, joined by Huntertain and Megalass, and our guest this week is FlashPandy, but I will only be calling them Pandy from here on out because that's mostly what I know you as.
Yes. Pleasure to be here. Excited.
Yeah, man, thank you.
The opportunity.
Yeah, no, hey, thank you for coming on. I've been telling these two that I was going to try to get someone from all the Rocket League stuff I do, and you were always that first person I really wanted to get on, considering you're, like, I look at you with MLE as a little bit of a jack of all trades. You do casting, you do producing, you do admin work, you do lobby stuff as well. And I felt like that'd be a really good way to, a really good just introduction for these two with how Rocket League kind of goes with it.
Yeah. Well, if you can ask questions away, I can explain how it works. How you guide us.
Yeah. I definitely will. But Pandy, before we get into a lot of the other questions that we probably want to ask you here, like I said, I kind of gave you the quick rundown of this. We ask our guests every week 2 questions, and then we'll just kind of spiral into insanity from there on out.
Cool.
But you already mentioned it a little bit here before we hopped on. But our first question we ask our guests every week is, what got you into doing esports, and furthermore into doing esports production?
Well, I'll say I've always been a gamer. I used to play like a lot of Forza. So like my brother was a big car guy, so he got me into like Forza and stuff like that. And then of course I'm 21, so I had an Xbox back in the day, so I played like Minecraft and like Fortnite when it came out and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, Rocket League, that's cool, because I've always played baseball, football. I'm a football family, so we've always had sports kind of running in our family in every fashion. So I've always been a fan of competitive games, not necessarily shooters, but I've always liked just sports in general. And when I saw Rocket League, I was like, well, that looks kind of cool. I'm not a soccer guy, but it's a sports game. It's different. There's nothing that's like it. So I tried it and I fell in love with it. Thought it was super cool. So naturally, as someone that's very competitive, I kind of just rolled with it. And 10 years later, nearly, and almost 10,000 hours later, here we are. But I've always been competitive. I've always enjoyed video games because it's something that I've played baseball my entire life. Played football, or I didn't play football, but family played football and all that stuff. So again, just a sports oriented family. It just works. It goes hand in hand. But for the production side of things, I've always been interested in how television works. I've never had a passion for it until I discovered this broadcast randomly on Twitch called MLE Sports GG. Shout out. And they had custom overlays. I had played Rocket League forever, and anyone that knows Rocket League knows there's the little score bug at the top middle of the screen. It's just the standard little scoreboard with home and away or blue and orange with the clock on it. And back then, it was around 2020. I had never seen anything like that before. Custom overlays, like custom like the caster screens and stuff like that. I had never seen that before on a Rocket League broadcast or even esports, because in 2020 that kind of thing wasn't around yet. And lo and behold, MLE was the pioneer of custom overlays basically in esports, because of Simple AOB, who had, I won't get too much into detail, but I was like, well, that's really cool. I've always thought the overlays on sports broadcasting was really cool, and it just goes hand in hand. Rocket League, competitive sports, broadcasting. I was like, this is cool. Saw that MLE was super professionally ran and stuff like that, and I was like, this could be cool to get a part of. Joined as a player, again, to continue that competitiveness, and eventually I got into, I was like, oh, I think it'd be really cool to get into production, and I tried to get my hand in casting. I think it was around season 13. We're in season 18 now. But I couldn't get on in time because they had a really full crew. And then once some of the Videon guys left, as you know, Dex, is when you and I kind of hopped on that train a little bit, and then I started moving up, and that's when my passion for everything really just took off.
I always remember like when I first joined MLE, and I only wanted to be a caster. Like I remember going through the orientation, and the two people who were running it, when I just said, "Yeah, I'm just here to be a caster," they both just said, "What? Why are you in this?" And I just said, "I was told I have to do this if I want to cast."
Which is funny because they don't require that anymore.
I think I might have been the reason I got started, because
Probably.
I sat there through an hour and a half orientation just saying, "Yeah, none of this means anything to me. I'm not gonna play in MLE. I fucking suck at Rocket League, but I love this game."
Yeah, it's a great experience, and I think while esports production doesn't necessarily entirely cross over to live production, which is again we'll get into it, but that's what has led into my current career. Um, that's it's just amazing how production has it's MLE. I have to credit MLE to everything, but esports production in general, again, is just it's fascinating to me.
Yeah,
Always
and
has been.
I mean, when I first joined MLE, I think it was it was either season 13 or season 14.
Yeah.
And one of the first seasons, after I joined there, you guys completely updated the graphics package for the overlays. And like here, let me at least pull this up so that it can be shown a little. Nope, wrong scene. Like, I immediately know where you got and we even talked about like this was the old NHL and NBC like inspired graphics package, and I thought like, hey, it's very smart and it's very very clean for Rocket League, where you normally see the scoreboard, especially in professional level, actually take up the entirety of the top part of the screen.
Yeah. This is super unique. I have to credit this entirely to the Videon guys because they were the ones that initially came up with this concept. I just brought it back. As you remember, the score bug used to be in the bottom right.
Mm-hmm.
And that was I didn't even design that package. But those were those guys as well. But the college carball guys, the collegiate Rocket League guys, actually originally were going to use this package, but the MLE guys were like, "Hey, this one's really cool. If you come up with something different, we'll use this package." And sure enough, they did. And that's Goofy and Furphy and Exotic. Those are the three that really designed this package. Simple AOB, again, the guy that makes the plugin in the background that allows these overlays to work. He's the one that also designed this. So those four mainly were the ones that designed this thing. It's a super unique touch on a crossover between live sports and esports, something I haven't seen before. Again, like you said, it's the NHL NBC bug from 2015 to 2018, roughly 2019, and I love it. There's some things that we can change that we might change, but yeah, I think it's a really unique concept that really hasn't been incorporated in other shows that I've seen in the esports world.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make the good point right there with, you know, having that crossover of traditional sports and esports. I mean, some of our friends and some of the people that we've had on here in the past, especially a couple weeks ago we had Solomon, who again I probably don't expect you to know, has done a lot with making overlays for Overwatch and now Rivals and Deadlock.
Oh, cool.
Here, and he's made it very like they've designed it to be very very easy to allow anyone to use it, basically his package. But it is the very basic, like if you've ever seen how Overwatch has it, where it's just the two rectangles, team names, maybe team colors, logo, and then score. That's what it'll be like for everyone. And while that's really clean and really nice, it's always something where I would love to see like, hey, do something a little bit different. You never have to match what's going on at that pro scene.
Yeah.
Put your own little twist on it. And I mean, they have here and there. I mean, us in CGL and Kunoichi, they've done some small changes here and there and have made it very, very nice as well. And I hate that Kunoichi. Like, what Hippie and Headrammer made for Kunoichi is incredible with the dot matrix kind of pattern and the very, very bright colors. And I think I even straight up told Headrammer the first time I saw that, can we bring that to CGL? Because it was so, I think it's so much better. It is so much better. But I mean, so you're trying to make these changes here at MLE, and I mean, college car bar is a huge thing as well. Then you have SEL and a whole bunch of other like college leagues popping up here and there that are really, really fun and get a lot of attention back out on the Rocket League, or the collegiate Rocket League scene, especially when leagues like, you know, NACE, NACE.
NECC,
NECC,
CECC.
yeah.
There's different ones, yeah.
And like they will do some, but not a lot. I like that these other leagues are actively trying to put on as many shows as they possibly can, and they all have their own individual look here.
Yeah. That's what I think super cool about like the world of production is that each individual crew, there's some people that work on different crews. I've worked with the SEL guys before. I work on the CRL broadcasts on the Rocket League Twitch, and it's interesting to see how those crews have people that will kind of intertwine with each other. But it's cool to see at different levels, whether it's like stuff on the main Rocket League Twitch, or if it's just MLE, or if it's SEL, or versus volunteer and paid. There's differences, but also at the same time, there's similarities because people understand the scope of esports production, at least for the most part. And it's really cool to see like the passion between those levels also being nearly the same level, even though like MLE, it's entirely volunteer based. We don't spend any money on our productions, but most of the people that work there, and I mean honestly, everyone that I've worked with MLE has the same level of passion as most people do at the top level. It's really special because most community leagues in production share that same trait. Cool.
Yeah, and that's I mean that's something we can all say here. All the leagues that myself, Hunter, and Mega have worked in, outside of just really CGL, they do paid for playoffs. But outside of that, regular season and every other basic community Overwatch league, it's all people doing it because they truly do love working with Overwatch and the friends they have made kind of along the way. And that's something that in the first couple episodes of this podcast, when we asked like, hey, what's the main reason that keeps you coming back, people would always say like, oh yeah, it's the people that I work with. It's
Yes.
these people I call my friends. And now that I'm slowly setting up into a segue here, let's go to the second part. Let's get into the second part of the question here, Pandy. What keeps you coming back? I mean, you've already mentioned here a little bit. This you figured out like you want to work with traditional sports. What keeps you coming back to doing Rocket League? You mentioned a little bit here that you work with CRL a little bit. What really keeps you coming back?
Well, I mean, you kind of said it. It's a lot of things, but I'd say mostly it's the people because I mean, it's just again, we're kind of like our own hive mind. When we're all in the control room, we're kind of on the same wavelength. We share that same passion for, hey, this is a show that, hey, maybe 60, 70, 80 people at a time are watching. It's not like these big top end shows with thousands and thousands of viewers, but we treat it like that. And that's something that's not common in other industries, but here we all get to share that. So the people, absolutely. And two, it's because it's like I said originally, I've had that interest in television since a young age. So I don't know, I don't share this super often with people, but I do go to school for production. I used to be engineering student, and I was like, math, physics, screw that, I'm done with this. And I took a gamble. I decided to make a move, and I go to Middle Tennessee State, which is in my hometown. But we have a great media program there. It's world class, and we have like our own mobile production truck, and we have our own stuff there. And I produce football, basketball. I'm doing a track and field event this week, 60 hours in 4 days. It's really cool on ESPN, CBS, stuff like that. So it's like real live television. But like you said, I keep coming back to Rocket League because that's where I started. I find it impossible to drop something that I have done consistently for the last 10 years of my life, play this one game. I can't give it up. Also, like you said, because of the people, It's because of it's the competitiveness, the concept that I love, and it's esports, something I've always been attached to. I'll never drop it unless I have to.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of where I am with Overwatch and with Rocket League. Like, unless I absolutely have to stop doing stuff in it, I'm never gonna stop doing this because I just have so much fun with it, and it's opened up.
Yeah.
It's weirdly enough opened up a lot of doors for me, and I've got to meet so many incredible people because of it. Um, but like we said while we were waiting here before we got started with the stream, we do have a friend here that has been on the podcast in the past that actually does what you do, who is more traditional sports first, did esports on the side just because it looked interesting to them. And I also think, Hunter, I think Unfeatured has actually started to do some, and Mega, I think Unfeatured started to do some traditional sports work with covering Drexel's softball game.
That sounds right. Probably.
Yeah, so
It does.
So Pandy, like we gave you the rundown on person. He mostly does traditional sports. We could talk about how terrible his boss is. The dude basically worked 2 years for free.
Oh my gosh.
No, we all scolded him. We all told him
Lesson one of freelance. You never work for free ever.
Hey y'all,
Unless you're getting experience. Unless you're getting experience. If you're getting experience, that's one thing. But or you're trying to make a connection, but you never undersell yourself. That's one thing I've learned the hard way.
Guys, we can bring it back. We can fucking slander person on this podcast again.
2 years. Holy crap.
No, it's like he kept on telling us time after time again for about 3 straight months, like, my boss told me he's gonna pay me here next week. I can give you a computer. His boss literally offered him a refurbished computer, or I could give you money.
Money.
Yeah, no, you take the money. You take.
What we do this for?
Yeah.
We're doing this for a living, man. Pay me.
Like,
that's funny.
Like, but traditional sports is his. Is his go-to. That is his thing. Like, he kind of backed off doing esports here really recently, so he could go back to do. I think it was Summer League Baseball, and nope, don't do that. Summer League Baseball, and I think he also does some stuff at like a dirt track in Kansas.
Cool.
Which is very interesting. And Unfeatured, the other person we talked about, I think his main focus is on esports. I know he works with one of like the more prominent observers for Overwatch, like on her team as a, I don't think it's an editor, but I think it's like someone who goes in there and gets footage of games that just can't be covered or other angles.
Yep.
Worked EWC last year, which was really, like, I talked to him about it. I understand why I did it. It was a very good opportunity for him. But
yeah.
he just started getting into traditional sports, and he said like it's wild. Like he didn't. I think with like verbatim, he said he did not expect to have as much fun doing it as he really was, which is interesting to say or interesting to think, because I feel like if you truly do enjoy doing like production stuff, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Every kind of thing, if it's esports, traditional sports, hell, even if it's like TV, it's just you're getting thrown another like kind of curveball at you where you're gonna have some fun learning it.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And like I said, most people that are in esports that are like, hey, I want to get into live television, it's not as easy as you think. I've JSA Dex, he is making that transition or trying to, and it is extremely hard to. And with his experience, he's a professional esports TD. It's very hard to find work in the production world because most of that stuff doesn't translate. There's knowledge of like networking and like knowing NDI and Dante and stuff like that, but when it comes to operating a camera, when it comes to operating a switcher board, when it comes to being a director or a producer or operating a replay machine, it is really different. And unlike the esports world, in live production, you have to battle the elements. You have to actually work with people and coaches, and you have to work with information directors for each team, and you have to work with clients. Well, you work with clients in esports anyways, but like it's unbelievable how much goes into it, and that's why I like it a lot more, I think, in my opinion, because I am sports oriented. Also, it pays really well depending on what you do. But I know some people that wrap cable for a living and they make over 100 grand a year. So it's insane. But it's an industry that is ever so growing. It's people say, oh, what if it gets impacted by AI and all that stuff? It won't, because AI, it's not going to touch this industry, at least in sports. In news, different story. I'm not even going to talk about news because news is boring. But for live production, it's incredibly fun, and I can't understate how unique of an opportunity it is compared to esports. Not to say that esports isn't interesting, but if you have the opportunity to like run camera for a softball show, hearing the director's comms, it's otherworldly. It's super cool. Super cool.
Yeah, and like there's always a part of me that wants to sit in on like in the production Discord call during one of my Overwatch or one of the Overwatch casts that someone's doing, because especially if you have like 3 or 4 observers, and I mean especially knowing some of the observers that we all know here, or that Hunter and Mega and I know, it could be absolute hell. Because they aren't talking about the game, but they are giving you incredible stuff in the game. And we've had them on, we've had some of them on in the past where they will talk about anything else, but they'll still be able to like actively like say get good shots, be able to have like okay, this play is coming up, they know it, they have the angle all ready to go. It's insane. I just kind of want to be able to sit in there, because I've heard our producers come in, or like they'll type in the chat like, Hunter, this happened like last night with Rhino, right? Where it's like, there's 4 people talking to me right now. I can't focus on any one of you guys.
You should hear some of the CRL ones. Go ahead.
No, that's the unfortunate thing of a producer having to hear essentially at least 2 conversations minimum at the same time. Whenever I'm with Echo, like Echo doesn't mute the mic, so I have to take a moment to be like, is Echo talking to us, or is she talking to the prod room? And sometimes I'll respond and realize, nope, I was wrong. Wrong people. My bad.
And producing is a whole nother that's a whole nother conversation. That is what I do, as I am a producer. As most recently I've done the Combat Cup for Call of Duty. That's a really cool event, and there's like 8 of them throughout the year. I will see if I live produce the other ones, but it's unbelievable what goes into it, between making sure everything's working, tech managing, graphics, talent, and just the communication part is something that is not for the weak-minded people, because especially in the live sports world, you're talking to your director, you're talking to your graphics people, you're talking to talent, you're talking to your clients, you're talking to your sideline reporters, you're talking to audio, you're talking to replay, all at the same time. And you have it's an RTS intercom panel with switches on it, and you can talk to individual people, and you're flipping that thing up and down constantly, like counting people in and out of break. You're saying, hey, is this graphic ready? Hey, this audio is a little quiet. Make sure. It's so nuts. And if you get the opportunity again to sit in a control room, even in the esports environment, I would recommend it. Dex, I just sent you a clip of the CRL control room. I don't know if you can I don't know if you can play that.
I'm gonna swap what screen.
Yeah,
and then pull it up.
Yeah, there you go.
Clippy clip.
Yeah, here's an example of what our control room is like.
This is chaos.
Like, it's just us screaming. That original video is over a minute long, and it is literally just us screaming the whole time. That's the nature of production too, and that's why I love it, because it's just so chaotic, but not at the same time.
I love that every esport has its own little terminology, and the fact that Rocket League has squishy.
Yeah. Shout out Squishy Muffins.
Even better, that's his whole name.
Um,
I think the last person we immortalized with a thing like that in Overwatch, I don't think has played Overwatch in 5 years.
I mean, there's some Rocket League players that are like that. I haven't seen Doomsy in a long time. The Doomsy dish. I haven't seen. Well, I'm sure Cuxer still plays, but I haven't seen Cuxer in a long time. There's a lot. Haven't seen a lot in a long time. There's a lot of mechanics from players that I haven't seen in a while, but those are also like EU players. So.
Yeah, the one that I'm thinking about is it was a player named Ajax. And he I don't know if you ever played Overwatch, but like
No.
Yeah, okay. So he played a support character called Lucio. And you get an ultimate, and it's basically you would have a short moment of where the ultimate would deploy and you could kill Lucio and cancel the ultimate.
Okay.
He proceeded to have that be canceled out 2 times in a row. And it just became something where when you get an ultimate canceled, it's just an Ajax now. No matter what the ultimate is, it's just an Ajax.
See, that's also why I love esports, is because that kind of thing isn't common in normal sports. Also, it is a lot harder to do in live sports because it's been around for so much longer. But I mean, there are certain things like in football, if you got mossed, you got Randy Mossed in football.
Yeah.
But like that, there's so few of those. But in esports, you have these niche names, like these names that just, if you say that name in that esport, everyone knows who it is. And I think that's what's also even more special about it, is because it's kind of an everyone knows everyone at that top level sort of thing. And you keep seeing players come back, whereas in those other sports, players retire. They may get traded to other teams and whatnot. But with this, you're going to see the same players playing the same game. And it's, from a talent perspective, I think it makes it almost more fun.
Yeah, and also with esports, just touching on like players retiring and everything. I always look at esports, and when players like put up those like twit longers, like, yeah, I'm retiring. It was a fun ride. Yeah, no, your ass is not retiring. You're
just crashing out for a little bit. You'll be back.
You'll be back. It might not be on this game. You might go to another game and be somewhat mid there for a little bit, but you'll still be pro.
See, that's what I don't have experience in, is seeing other pros play other games, because Rocket League, as we know,
so
is
unique.
It's so unique. Those skills translate to nothing else at all. So, like a CS pro quitting CS and playing Valorant, that's probably not uncommon at all. But at least when Valorant came out. But that's the sort of thing that I have never seen, or I've never gotten to experience. So I think that's an even cooler concept. It's like this person may be some world renowned god tier player in, I don't know, Overwatch, and then now they've quit Overwatch and now they're playing Marvel Rivals. So I'm sure that's happened.
It's happened a lot,
Sure.
actually. Like, especially with some like fringe, like top tier players, they would go over to Rivals almost instantly because they knew they could make, professional teams again. But I mean, I talked about, or we were talking about something that was going on with RLCS before we started the podcast, and I said, here, let's pause on that, because it is a good topic to talk about, especially when it comes to where we are. A lot of us are, with still doing this for fun for the most part, a lot of grassroots stuff, but RLCS came under a lot of scrutiny, especially the teams that were trying to co-stream their teams in the open qualifiers and getting casters to come in. And it's very interesting because I am technically a part of this. I'm on the bad side of this. Let me put it like that. I'm not on the side of it that's for good, because I could have benefited from it. But
I think.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think there are 2 different sides to it. There's the people that are just on the cusp, that are like, so in my eyes, I see talent as, you have your S tier talent that are doing RLCS. You have your A tier talent that are doing CRL, that are doing the CCA events, like the collegiate level, that are probably would be the next in line for that S tier RLCS level. and then you have your A tier, your B tier casters that are kind of everyone else that is trying to maybe make it into the space to maybe where you can make some money off of it, or you can go part-time, like actually rely on that income. But for the most of us, we have to do it for fun because it's extremely competitive, and unfortunately with the state of esports, you can't rely on that for income unless you're at that bubble or you're at that top level already. There's only a few people I can name that aren't in RLCS that do it full time. But where the bad side and the good side of that whole thing comes in is when in your circumstance, you're not trying to do this for an income full time. You're not relying on this full time. But where the problem came in is when these people that are relying on esports full time can't get work because people that are trying to do this part time are undercutting already paid rates. That's the difference. And there were some orgs that were offering pay to these people. These people that rely on this income would have accepted the job, but those jobs weren't a thing anymore because there were people that would come in and say, "Hey, I'll do this for free." And those are the orgs that are like top 8 at that level already, that where they would originally be paying people. But when it's teams that are on the cusp of RLCS, they're just looking to put together kind of a, again, like you said, a grassroots team of casters, and even people that are just trying to make it in the space that have good experience like you guys do. It's I don't really put fault there. I think there are some bad eggs out there, but I don't really consider you to be in that spot. But to your point, there are people out there that have been part of that problem when it comes to screwing over the people that rely on that income.
Yeah.
So,
and basically what kind of happened with all this, and Pandy, I know you probably said it, but just to put it in layman's terms, orgs were going after casters who had Liquidpedia pages to get them to come cast their stuff. And there were other orgs who were going after talent that didn't have Liquidpedia pages, basically saying, hey, if you come and cast with us, you can get your Liquidpedia points and get a page. Which, again, and I made the joke, like, when, I forget who it was, but when Boulevard, the person who came to me and said, hey, can you come cast our team's open run for Boulevard? I was like, hell yeah. And they said, you could potentially get a Liquidpedia page if we make it far enough. I was like, fuck, that'd be funny if I get a Rocket League page before I get an Overwatch page, because it would make no sense. And like, one, I love doing Rocket League, but I thought that'd just be really, really funny. But Boulevard almost actually fucking made top 8, which was insane. Yeah. And that was a fun thing to watch because they lost their first series and then played fucking like 10 to make it into like the top 16, where everything got reset.
I think I remember that run. That stream went for like 6 hours.
Yeah.
It was a long stream.
That was my longest stream last year. Like, cause I forget who I was casting with, but we stayed on the entire time, through all the breaks, through everything. It was consistent games, and it was like incredible play as well. And like, I love all those players. I hope they're still doing good. I haven't been able to follow them. That's the problem.
Do you remember who they were? Because I could tell you where they are.
I got a Twitter DM from one of them. I could tell you who one of them was. Alraz.
I feel like Alraz. I know they're still at the bubble level. I think they're like top 32.
It wouldn't surprise me that entire team's around that level still.
Yeah, I think Arju may have been at that level. Was it Arju on that team?
I don't remember. I think I remember Arju. Yeah.
Yeah, Arju won CRL this past year. Oh. Arju is playing top 16, top 8 RLCS right now. Cracked. Yeah.
But to bring this back down to our level, like Hunter Mega, I mean, while we have that kind of problem in Overwatch where Liquidpedia is still looked at as like a thing you want to try to get, and Mega, you got yours. I know that. You're also making Liquidpedia change a lot of stuff because they never had a VTuber be a part of Liquidpedia before, as far as I know. Hunter, you're close. You're close to Liquidpedia, right?
Liquidpedia doesn't think I am, but I know I am. That's what I gotta say on the subject.
Yeah, like Overwatchers, it's weird because there are tournaments and leagues that are classified as those D tier or C tier that do get you points, but it's not like casters are it's not like casters are being told like, hey, if you come here you're gonna get these points. Like up until about a year and a half ago, I didn't know that CGL was technically considered something that got Liquidpedia points. Like I had no idea about that. But like I don't think I've ever necessarily heard of an Overwatch league or Overwatch team necessarily or event say like, okay, we're gonna go and find only people who have Liquipedia pages for these types of events or for whatever they want to do for. But like Hunter, Mega, have you guys ever ran into that situation where they've asked like, do you have a Liquipedia page?
No.
Nope.
Like, I'm gonna be so real, like, the only time Liquipedia pages really get mentioned with Overwatch is the fake ego bragging among friends. When you go to like your other co-casters or observers and stuff like that, like, hey, where's your Liquipedia at? Like that kind of deal. Which it feels bad to say that considering Hunter's expression right now, but that's kind of like the only time it comes up in the Overwatch space. I have met some Valorant people who seem to care about it a bit more, but overall, Overwatch is just kind of chill about it.
Yeah, no, and you make the joke about just we like to kind of do the jokingly brag to it. Was it you that told me to? No, it was someone on our CGL team that said put your Liquipedia link as your additional information on the team sheet.
Oh, that the 1000% Spec said that. 1000% Spectron said that.
Yeah, that does sound like our resident British person. But I mean, it was a really weird thing when that was happening with RL Pandy.
Yeah.
Because I felt like that was a very ominous thing now with how you kind of seen RLCS kind of go, where it's not necessarily in the best of spots at the moment, which is terrible because like you said, Rocket League is unique when it comes to esports games, where there's really no other game truly like it.
I think it's a very interesting situation because Rocket League is an esport, and everyone's like, "Oh, ever since Epic bought Rocket League, it's just going to garbage. It's the game's dying." Blah 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 blah. That's not true. It's not. The entire esports industry is going down, and what also people don't realize is that it's really not as bad as people make it out to be, because we're comparing the golden days of esports that we're like, "Oh, we're esports is going down." You're comparing it to COVID when no one was out of their house. It was at its peak. We will never have that again. Like, even if there is some global pandemic where everyone's locked down again, we have got to a place in society where we can operate online. Before, that wasn't a thing because we didn't have the infrastructure for it. Now no one had anything to turn to but esports. Now everyone's trying to compare to the COVID era of esports, which again will never happen again. So realistically, esports isn't in a great spot right now when it comes to people like us that are trying to make it in esports. But it's from a viewership perspective, I don't think it's nearly as bad as people make it out to be. But like you said, in Rocket League, I feel like that's an interesting situation because under Blast management from formerly being ESL and Psyonix, it's an interesting situation because you have talent that everyone cherishes and loves, and they just seemingly just get cut. Jorby achieves, and it's just like, well, what the heck? And then slowly they're like, okay, we're bringing them back on. But it's such an interesting perspective to see like how hard and how much harder it is for some people to make it that originally would have. I'll give an example. Danger Taco is a fantastic caster. He's a CRL caster. He said that he's lost about 40% of his income this year from last year just because those events just don't exist anymore. It's orgs not pumping in money. It's sponsors not pumping in money into the esports scene because they found that it's not profitable, because they're comparing it to when it was profitable in the COVID era. So it's just a period where we're just kind of in a trench. Hopefully it'll make its way back up eventually, but we're just in a rough time, and people like us unfortunately get overlooked. Production is the first thing that gets overlooked. And when it comes to having a quality event, production is, in my opinion, not biased, of course, the most important part of having a good event, other than admins, is production. And unfortunately, we're the ones that get screwed over the most when it comes to budget. I don't understand it. Hopefully, it's something I will understand in time if I become an executive producer or something. But it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it truly is, especially because like I've seen some events have some of the best casters out there.
Yep.
But they are everything else is okay at best. And I've seen it be the other way where, hey, the production looks great. You can tell everything's being ran very smoothly, but the casters are okay. But you can honestly get past that at points. If everything looks good and it's getting shown to you at like a decent quality that you're being able to watch it, like you will look over some stuff at that point. And you brought up the one point of like, that talent is slowly, the love talent is slowly starting to be phased out as they try to bring in new people. I think with Overwatch and OWCS at the moment, we aren't very far away from that happening. With the talent that was there from Owl or Overwatch League, now slowly starting to try to be phased out a little bit. And I think some of them will leave because Valorant or Rivals is going to take off and they'll be paying them a little bit more. But there'll be some that just fade away and there'll really be no good answer. Like we've seen it a little bit with some of those casters, which sucks, but it's kind of to be expected when you change over from different production companies. And like you said, we're no longer in that phase of like where esports at the highest level is barely profitable.
Yeah, and what I think we can also, like you said, chalk that up to is the fact that people aren't putting money into esports nearly as much as they used to. So the talent that we're used to seeing at the top level, these production companies can't pay them as much because they don't have the budgets for it. So it's just a vicious cycle of why aren't you paying us more? Well, we want to, but we can't. And then when they say, can we get more budget? It's like, well, we would give you more budget, but what's the return for us? And since that we're not in that esports peak anymore, the craze and the hype of really high viewership, which I mean, you still get insane viewership on broadcast, but it's just not as profitable anymore because of prize pools and whatnot. You can't pay talent as well. So people like us suffer because the people that were originally at the S tier level or at the highest tier level have to drop down to that kind of lower, not lower level, but the next highest level that we or whoever that would originally fill would be fulfilling. So it knocks us all down a rung of the ladder. So the people that are not pros but rely on that income, they don't have that income anymore because people at the top level are occupying that space so they can stay sustainable. So it's just a vicious cycle, and it's hard to put anyone at fault. And this goes way back to the conversation we originally had with the bad eggs. Then you have the people that just want the Liquidpedia page just to say they have one, coming in and saying they're undercutting the paying gigs for the people that got knocked down from the original bubble level. So it's just a whole thing, and that's there you go. That's the full scope. That's the whole story.
Yeah. Let's move to a little bit of a more upbeat topic because like let's get away from the problems with the esports industry at the moment. Again, like I said, you were one of the first people I wanted to reach out to when I was talking to them about when I was talking to Mega and Hunter about getting someone from Rocket League on, because like how I said, you are what I would consider a jack of all trades. And we've had people like that before here, and they've been able to tell us a lot of great stuff. But Rocket League, in one way that is different from what I would say Overwatch is the role of the observer. I know there are observers in Rocket League. You can have a free cam. I believe you've done it on a broadcast here or there. But the director cam itself in Rocket League is incredible, and it is something that you really would like to see other games have, at least as good. But in Overwatch, like Mega, you like this is probably a good question for you because of, hey, that is a shoe. He's eating my croc.
I mean, maybe you don't have a tasty croc. Like,
Okay, she likes NASCAR crocs.
Hey, that's cool.
Okay, but back to it. Mega, this is probably a good thing for you to touch on because you've done it a little bit more than what me and Hunter have probably combined with observing, especially in a shooter where it is more hands-on and you need to be able to do this. Where in Rocket League, it's just a button. It is incredibly well put together with Rocket League. Like they might have one of the best observing systems in any game that I've ever seen before.
I mean, yeah, I'm not obviously as well versed in Rocket League, but obviously, the observers still have to do their work there, right? Being on the right person at the right time, there's still obviously that angle you have to make sure that you're getting and things like that. But like, listen again, I purposely do not observe often. I always list myself as like a, hey, listen, if literally nobody else exists on the planet, put me up as an observer, because again, Overwatch, any shooter really, it's just such a different beast. Especially like POV cam, you can at least kind of get away as long as you have some game knowledge. You can be like, okay, I know that this person should be popping off in this fight. Hopefully they don't get their head ripped off randomly. But like free cam observing in a shooter game, forget it. I genuinely, I will never be good at it. I will never excel at that, and I'm good with that because I don't want to.
It's so difficult, and luckily, with the very small amount of productions that I've worked on that aren't Rocket League, I've gotten to kind of see what kind of a little look at what goes into that observing, and it's pretty crazy. You just have to kind of the amount of knowledge that you have to have on the game, the specific maps, the specific players, where they're going to be. It's insane what goes into it. And I will never have like enough appreciation for observers because the work they do, like it's the kind of thing that I love. And this is also why I love production because you work super hard to get a camera shot that's on screen for a couple seconds. But
Mhm.
there's some famous observers and some observer moments that I've heard about just down the grapevine from like CS. If there's like a famous sniper shot or like some crazy thing that happens and observer misses it, it's like, oh my god, this observer sucks. But like there's so much going on, it's impossible to know what's going on at every part of the map at the same time. And that's what I love about Rocket League because it's pretty easy. It's I can't say it's super simple because there are two different kinds of observing. There's you got your director cam, which automatically switches POVs, and that's what people sit on most of the time. But then you have your free cam observing, which that's just using your controller and you're just fishing for beauty angles, and that's what I like the most. Obviously, I will always stick with Rocket League because it is traditional sports. But if you've ever watched the NHL, they've actually done I call it free cam observing because it's just an easy way to describe it. But they do something extremely similar. They did it in the NHL finals this past year, the Stanley Cup finals. Um, and it's super similar to what free cam looks like with Rocket League. My camera died. There we go. So observing is something I will never understand fully because I haven't done it enough. I would love to do it because I love operating cameras. I've done it for basketball and stuff like that, and I love it. But I'll never have enough appreciation for observers. It's so cool.
And especially when like the couple times I've seen the free cam observer in Rocket League, it's something very interesting to see because it's like you said, it's not something you see often.
No.
Because it throw like the couple times I've seen it while casting, it actually threw me off for a second because it's going away from what I normally see to just like, okay, why are we in the middle of the field while the ball is in one of the corners, and you can slowly see the camera start to like kind of go. You good, Zay? You slowly just start to see the camera like move differently than you ever seen it before, and like it throws you off for a quick second just because no one's really used to it there. Like in Overwatch, Valorant, CS, any shooter, you're used to it at points because you expect to see it. Like either after fights in between rounds at the start of rounds, like you expect to see free cams then, because like you said, they're getting your map shots, your beauty shots, they're finding small things. Do not eat a cord. You're finding those small things that like make the maps have a little bit of life. But in Rocket League, like unless you want to go outside the map and look at the beans, there's not much to really see that often.
And I think it's interesting too because I think you may not have the correct. Okay, this sounds bad, but I'm gonna fix it. You may not have the correct experience working with a broadcast that is done observing. So the way I've done observing with MLE is probably is different from how it normally works. So with observing in games, productions are done via vmix. The way I have done it was locally through OBS, and I did that on my own machine. But usually with observing, you have something called an IGD, an in-game director, which is the person that is switching the observing. So you have two observer machines. If you say you have two observers,
Yeah,
one being the director cam, one being the free cam, and then they're switching between it. But the way I did it, I think you were actually casting when I did it. I did one view, one program feed out, and I was observing off of that. So whatever you saw is what I was doing.
Yeah, like we have that same thing with a couple of I think they like to call themselves in-game directors, like you just did. We normally just call them producers. We've talked about the one here, Echo. Hippie is another one, or Skylar is another one who does use vmix, and there are times where it's like, here's his 4-box, but it's really like, here's what the stream's seeing, here's all of his observers, here's every box again just thrown into a smaller one, and then here's a couple more boxes just for fun.
The multi-view,
yeah. But like it's insane to kind of see all that stuff when you do get the chance to see it. But I mean, like I said, you're a jack of all trades when it comes to what you do in MLE. Lobby admin is something you've done as well. Same thing with producing a broadcast here, but I mean, like you kind of mentioned there with observing, it's really not that much different in Rocket League, where in Overwatch and almost, I would say, every other esport, I feel like that might be a little bit of a discredit. What I just said there, you're going to need to have at least more than one person to really put something on. But like lobby adminning, you do see it in all of our leagues that we cast for Overwatch, but it's mostly just most of the time just one of the observers in there. But in Rocket League, especially with Bacchus mod, I feel like it kind of throws a little bit of a different curveball in there, because you're using an outside thing to. Now the colors is, again, the team colors is actually built into the game, right?
It is, yeah, but yeah, we have that baked in. There's not a plugin for it. The plugin we use doesn't work anymore, so we don't use it. But yeah, to basically lobby admins, they for MLE they set up the team lobbies with the colors. That's not on the broadcaster side.
And it's so funny that some players in MLE always try to get like, say, yeah, I'm gonna use this team decal. It has no reference to any of their colors.
Or I'm gonna use this team decal that is exactly the other team's colors, and then they don't understand why we don't like that. They're like, well, you said it's not a band decal. Well, you look like the other team, so we need you to not do that.
Yeah, I feel like if we truly wanted to go into it, we could talk about how horrible some players are at understanding some of the decisions that admins and the production teams make sometimes.
Any show you work on, you're gonna run into it. I think all four of us have had that story, or those couple of stories where it's like, wow, that sucked. One thing you'll always remember is some of the people you run into. Like, that's also what I think is fun about esports, is you love the people and you hate the people. That's esports.
No, like, and that's truly it. And I always try to fall onto the side of, like, especially when I'm casting, of I don't want the players to outright hate me for what I'm saying, especially about them if they're having a bad game. But there are just some people who cannot take any criticism of themselves.
That's a part of being a competitor. And that's also what's interesting about esports is that good players are getting younger and younger.
Mhm.
So the expectation for them is getting higher and higher, and they're not mature enough to realize that. And that's when you get into toxicity. That's when you get into uh, shout out Zen crying after losing a 1v1 show match. Dex, I don't know if you ever saw that, but he lost
No.
on Moxie in a 1v1 and he cried because Moxie was trash talking him and he had like 3,000 people in his chat calling him bad. This 16-year-old kid who's like the best player in the world crying because thousands of people are trash talking him. It's like, come on.
Mhm.
The expectation to perform is higher than ever. The people are younger than they have ever been on average. And when it comes down to it, people don't know how to treat younger people like they should. They treat them like they are much older, and it never ends well. Never ends well. But that's esports.
Yeah.
That's why we all love it.
Players, especially at professional level, should also get some media training. Like,
Yes.
it's like, or hell, even if you like, even if you're players and you expect to be like the best in the world at some point, learn how to do an interview, please. For the love
It's
of God.
shocking how bad some people are at interviews. Like, we'll bring them on, and like for CRL, we'll bring some. Most of those guys are really good because they have scholarships. They have to be good at being like whatever. But like they'll get on and their camera's like completely dark, and they're just like, we're like, oh, blah 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 blah. Ask them a question. What does this win mean for you? They're like, it's good. It's good.
Yes.
Just like, come on, man. Surely you could come up with something better than that. Surely.
It's unfortunate that there are some people who just don't want to really get themselves out there more, because like we talked about this when Echo was on. If players actually got themselves out there more, they don't understand, like, that's another way that they could potentially end up either getting better opportunities or even getting sponsorships where they could earn a little bit more on the side if you just present yourself a little bit better.
That's what I like about live sports too, because you can basically rely on all those guys to have a presence. Because I mean, you do watch a college football game, 2 million people watching. I mean, they're gonna have good camera presence because they have to.
Yeah.
Whereas with esports, there's really they have no reason to unless they're a pro and they've signed a contract to have good camera presence.
Yeah.
So
before we get too far away from anything else, Hunter, Mega, are there any questions that you guys want to ask Pandy? And Mega, not that question. We'll come back to that one.
Different segment.
Yeah, no. Listen, I have a different segue though. It probably got explained, but I was late showing up. Spoiler alert, that's not shown. What's up with the Cheez-Its? I gotta know. It's been driving me fucking crazy.
definitely was explained before you got here, yes. But that's what most people know me for in the caster space and production space. Because I really like Cheez-Its, if you haven't guessed that already. Like 10 months ago, 11 months, I actually can't tell you how long it's been, but I started collecting them, and I was like, cool. And I'm trying to get like as many flavors as I can. 22, but there's 74 boxes. This is it goes up. So yeah, it's just a dumb collection, but eventually maybe lead to a sponsor, maybe.
Now listen, that's fair. I got 2 boxes of extra toasty myself.
Overrated.
Okay,
Wow.
all right, never mind. I hate this guy. Someone else ask a question.
I'll tell you the best one.
He hasn't prepared.
Right here. Extra crunchy bold cheddar. That is the best kind of Cheez-It. Hands down, far and away. If you see it at your store, buy it. You'll know what I mean.
Dex, can I get perms to server ban someone?
No.
God.
No, not our guest.
It's really important. I didn't say it'd be our guest.
I'm going to offend y'all with this one. White cheddar is the most overrated flavor. Sorry.
I don't have
Anyways,
anything to say about
carry
it. I
on.
don't eat Cheez-Its.
That's fair.
I like asking this question when the name seems to stick out to me. FlashPandy. when I hear that name, I think of like first thing that comes to mind is like Flash in the Pan, which I am going to guess is not the inspiration. This is why I'm going to ask you what the inspiration is.
Well, I liked pandas as a kid, so that was easy. So my name on Xbox had like panda in it, so I brought that over. Like I said, I played baseball forever, and my last name is close to the word. My nickname was Flash because my last name was similar to the word Flash. Not entirely, but yeah. My last name is Fleischmann, German name. So people didn't know how to pronounce that, so they called me Flash. So Flash Panda was originally what the name was. And then my friend accidentally called me Pandy one day, and it was really funny. I don't know why, but had to be their moment. Sounds really stupid, but we all have had those. So Flash Pandy was born.
I understand the last name thing because I fall in the same category of no one actually being able to pronounce my last name.
Yeah.
You've seen it before, right?
I don't think I have.
Okay. I'll type it in chat. Then
I'm not going to say it.
No, I will let you take a guess, and then I'll say it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's dyslexia's worst nightmare.
I mean, my first guess would be like Jerdrick or Jedrick or something.
Okay, you were right. You were closer to that second time with at least saying Jed.
Jedrick?
Jedrazak.
Jedrazak. I wasn't even close.
Yeah, that second.
That's a cool last name.
The second J throws people off.
Jedrazak. Interesting. Yeah, I've known a lot of people with some crazy last names. That's up there.
Yeah. Polish last names surely are a thing in this world.
That's mine. Well, I already said it, but still, that's how it's spelled. A little easier than yours.
a little easier. I understand how they got Flash, but
yeah.
wow, that's a reach to get Flash.
Yeah. You'd be surprised some of the nicknames I've had. It's pretty stupid. But Flash is the one that stuck.
Yeah, I had an older brother, so I just got like every teacher that had him and just called him Jed. I just became Little Jed.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I mean, Pandy, I have one more question for you, but is there any questions you want to necessarily ask us? Just with the different games that we have worked on and casted, and like you want to see if there's any difference or any big or any similarity or any big difference.
I guess how long have y'all been working on sports?
I'm actually the short. I think we've talked about this a lot. I am actually the person who's been doing it the least amount of time. I started in 2020.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Megalass and Mega, you might have been like slightly earlier, but I know I started in 2018.
Yeah, we were both 2018.
Yeah.
I started in 2021, late 2021. So that's basically what I wanted to say was, since I think I've been doing esports the least out of anybody here, which is actually pretty interesting. But I want to hear from y'all how the esports world has changed in your eyes versus what we've talked about, kind of what I talked about for the Rocket League scene. Loaded question.
I mean, it's weird. It's weird because considering that we all, consider probably Overwatch our main game, we saw our professional league die and then come back.
Wow.
So it died and came back under ESL. So and under that kind of umbrella, which, it's great that it's here, but there are still some people that just don't necessarily like ESL for justifiable reasons. But I mean, like you said, it's like you kind of said when you're talking about just how esports is down in every kind of way at the moment, maybe outside of viewership. It's just that's something that's being talked about more and more now, with just money into it. That's been the biggest thing that I think since I started that has been brought up more and more. That's been the biggest change with everything.
I think it's especially hard too because I would say Rocket League and Overwatch are not your. I personally would not consider them to be the top level of esports.
No.
I really wouldn't,
That's
because
not.
your games like CS,
Mhm.
games like uh League of Legends. I'm trying to think of others,
I
but like
think I think
those two, and then you got like even
I think
Valorant.
I think
Like,
you're if you're gonna rank uh games, it's gonna be CS, it's gonna be League, it's gonna be Dota,
yep, Dota.
and
Yeah.
then I'm just
Then
gonna
I feel
throw.
like those. I feel like those are kind of alone at the top, and then you got the Rocket Leagues, the Overwatches, the Valorants, the
I think you get
whatever else,
you
all on that same level.
you gotta put fighting games or the FGC with those top three, but as a whole, not individually, because individual games don't necessarily do it. But I think the FGC as a collective is as big. No, it's bigger than CS or League or Dota
Yeah.
in just pure numbers.
Interesting. Cool.
But Hunter Mega, I'll give you guys time here to answer the question Pandy asked.
I mean, like esports, like it's crazy because again, like we experienced such a crazy blow up in like the COVID era when everybody was online, everybody was doing that stuff, and then to see it kind of to say it's deflating feels so wrong because you're definitely like esports is larger than it ever was like 2018 2019 like
Yep.
we always joke about like, oh, we're grassroots Overwatch right now. Like 2018, 2019, that was that was as grassroots as you could get in esports for a while there. Like it was either you were a pro or you made no money doing this 80 hours a week as your hobby. Like there was no in between. But like it's expanded in such a way to where there's an actual ecosystem for so much stuff. And I feel like that just gets overlooked because again, everybody saw these COVID level numbers that were like, oh, everybody's inside. This is great. And then everybody got the chance to go back outside. And it's like, oh, why didn't we retain 1 billion% of everything? And it's just
I can't agree more.
No, they've already described it pretty well. It's hard to add on much in that situation. It's hard to really come down to the basis of what is going to draw numbers back like that again. And I don't know if there is quite an answer at this point. I hope we find it. I hope it's there somewhere. But
Well, I'll ask a I guess a more personal question then. Do y'all have a favorite event or memory from working esports production? If you had one thing stick out, one favorite show or event you've ever worked on, what would it be?
weirdly it's not a cast for me. It was the co-streams we did for Stockholm or not Stockholm for Dallas. Like Dex on his phone in the airport. Fucking I essentially on
13-hour
PLC.
fucking delay in an airport.
Like it was great because like freaking it was the LAN itself had a 4-hour power outage delay. Like
Wow.
even though the story like everything was scuffed, but it was just like you were chilling with your homies talking about esports. It was genuinely so great. We had like codes to give away because somehow CGO was like partnered with like it was like crazy. I remember that ghost stream and that's like my peak of esports easily.
Cool.
The
Super cool.
funniest thing I remember about that co-stream is we eventually started doing like the online Hunger Games things where you just put in names. I remember Hippie bludgeoned someone to death with like a club, and we all just kind of said, "Yeah, that could happen. I could see Hippie doing that." And then the next night goes, I just randomly died. No one killed me. I just fell asleep and died, which I thought was really really funny. I'm gonna be honest. I think for me it was like I have two different answers for this. Truthfully, something I worked was DreamHack Atlanta for the collegiate event. It was the first LAN that I got to work on, and it was like a whole come to like the whole circle moment. I'm forgetting the phrase, but like it made it all everything that I'd done kind of worth it. Doing everything, doing all these casts, doing like everything, meeting all these people. like sitting there and actually doing the cast. Like I was nervous for the first time in a very, very long time casting, because it was like, I'm not in this room. I'm not
Got
here.
real eyes on you.
Yeah. And like it was just so unique. And even though like, yeah, the land itself or the setup wasn't the best, it will still go down as probably one of the more unique setups I've ever had. But the other one, like non-working production, it was the last grand finals for Overwatch League in Toronto. Randomly ended up talking to some dude in a Atlanta Thrashers jersey because I like hockey jerseys. Turned out to be someone from Tranquility, an old league, and he recognized me because I casted it, not because of anything else. He just straight up asked me, "Are you Dexatron?" I was like, "Holy fucking shit!"
That's super cool.
Like,
That's something you'll never forget.
No,
That's awesome.
I never will. It's like I like told my parents that night when I finally got back to my Airbnb, like, I don't care what else happens this trip. That moment right there made it for me.
Yeah. That's what I think separates esports from anything else. Like, you can get recognized for being an NFL talent or something because everyone knows them. But like on the esports level, everyone, it's a world where if you're not in the esports world, you don't know it. But if even then, like, it's such a small scope compared to what live sports is. Being recognized like that, that's a big deal. Like, that's a big deal. That's super cool. That's cool to hear.
Hunter?
Yeah. I feel like my answer ends up somehow being different every time this question is asked, because it definitely isn't the first time that we've had
No,
this question be asked before.
Oops.
And it's definitely about to be different once again. But honestly, Dex, I'm gonna bring up last night. I'm gonna be honest.
I was gonna say, like,
honestly,
last night,
it's really hard not to bring it up. So just for context, this League CGL that we're in introduced South America into the regular season for the first time pretty much ever. And they opened up like the console league for it. And Dex and I just did the grand finals for them last night. And we're going to that not really having like probably like the largest of like expectations, not because of the region or anything. It's just you go into a match like that and you're like, all right, we're hoping this is a good one. And my God, Dex, was that one of the best matches we have covered in, I would say, a very long time.
all year long for me.
Yeah. I even said on Twitter, like, that is my favorite of the year so far. And there's a good chance that maybe it doesn't get beat. Because for me in this situation, it's been a while since I have had a game where I have felt like it is a genuine roller coaster. And I know this isn't quite to the level of what I've got going on with these two right here, but to experience that kind of thing and be able to tell a story and then got all the positive reception on Twitter from a bunch of South American players and people who watched, like, that was amazing to see. So just having a moment like that is a lot of fun, especially going in not having the slightest idea as to how amazing that was going to be about 3 hours later when we were like, yep, it's 7 o'clock. We should be done by 9. Nope, we were out of there by like close to what, like 10:30. Yep.
That's cool.
No, but,
Did you answer the question, Andy?
I asked the question.
But do you want to answer
yeah,
it?
true.
I can.
Yeah.
Man, that's a loaded question. Great question, Pandy. Thank you. I will say I mean, I have to. I'd say one of my favorite events I've casted there or been a part of. There's a South American Rocket League event that they do every year. It's called Copa Mulatos, or it's the Molasses Cup. And it is a bunch of South American Rocket League pros, a bunch of South American content creators, and South American RLCS casters. Not sure why, but they've been inviting me to it the last couple of years because I know some people. And this past year, they invited Dex, Leafx, Achieves, Jorby, Dazrin, like some of the goats. And they do an English broadcast and a Portuguese broadcast, and I did the casters that play on the teams get to cast the English broadcast. And I got to cast with Achieves and Leafx, and that was some of the most fun I've had casting because they are fantastic casters. Like they're awesome, really cool guys. Also, one of my favorite casting moments is an MLA Grand Final I had with Pyre Squared. I love that guy. He's awesome. We had a game, a Premier League series go back and forth. Dex, as you know, Premier League is top of the top for MLE, and it was best of 7. They went down to game 7. It was 2-1, and they flicked it over the last guy back to tie it on 0 seconds, hit the bar, went down halfway in, game over. And it was insane. The moment was awesome. Like one of my probably my favorite casting moment that's ever happened. But yeah, from an overall production perspective, I'd say producing football, college football, my very first college football game was probably the most nervous I've ever been in my life, knowing that there's like 100,000 people watching this. After a 4-hour rain delay, we didn't get out of there till 2 a.m. It was a 19-hour day. It was unreal. If you ever get into live sports, don't ever let college football be like the first thing you produce. Never. But that will go down as probably my favorite overall production moment, or one of them. So, 2 answers.
Well, hopefully, with MLE playoffs getting started this past weekend, there'll be more exciting moments. Hell, what the series I did Saturday? What, it went 6
That was with
games?
me.
Yeah, it went.
That was with me.
No, it went 7. No, it went 6.
That was 6.
It went 6.
It was still really good.
God, the Jets fell apart.
Yeah.
They fell off a cliff. But, I think we're at a point here where we could wrap it up, but we have one more thing to do here. Mega, take the floor.
Listen, this is the most important thing, all right? I need you to lock in. All right.
She means it.
Check it. No, this is some real hard-hitting esports, totally. The fact that Dex allows this to be a bit, by the way, I appreciate so much, despite it having nothing to do with esports. But anyway, you know the show Blue's Clues, right? You ever heard of it, Pandy?
I have, yeah.
What if I told you Mr. Salt is the one who's listed as the owner of the house on the deed?
I don't know what you're referring to, unfortunately.
He doesn't know Mr. Salt. You don't know Mr. Salt.
Mr. Salt.
I'm sorry.
Okay, wait, no, Mega, I think we ran into 2 people who were old enough that Blue's Clues was still very popular when they were young.
Mm-hmm.
Pandy's 21. He was born in 2004.
3.
3.
But still.
So around that time, Blue's Clues was not necessarily the most popular because I was 5 in 2003.
Okay, no. But see,
SpongeBob's my jam. SpongeBob's my jam.
No, this isn't about SpongeBob, all right? Listen, there was a salt shaker in Blue's Clues, right? Because obviously there's the blue, there was the dog, right? And then you had the homie, Steve, and then Joe, and then there's a new guy, I don't remember his name, we always forget his name. But
Joe?
And they were the only humans. Everybody else was just like, you had Blue, that was the dog, and then inanimate objects that became animate, right? Including Mr. Salt and Mrs. Pepper, right? There was a whole family. See, look, Mr. Salt, right there. This dude is legally the owner of a house. There is a human living in the house, but this guy's the owner.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good to know the next time I watch this show, which is probably never.
No, but it's...
I'll just preface, I grew up on SpongeBob and Seinfeld. 2 things.
Seinfeld?
Yes.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
We've actually killed Mega. I didn't think
So
it was
where
possible.
did he know?
You've killed the VTuber. It's actually Sojover.
Wow, she's actually petrified.
The animation's just like...
You know what? Solidarity of my co-caster. Solidarity.
Well, this is going to be one of the ways we end this podcast. But okay, yeah. I don't think Mega ever expected that bit to go that way. But Pandy, thank you for actually having it go that way. Because at some point I knew we were going to get someone who said, "Yeah, I don't know that much about Blue's Clues." I did not expect Mega to have that kind of reaction. Honestly, it was great.
I know nothing about Blue's Clues.
Fair enough.
I mean, I know what the show is, but I couldn't tell you past that.
No, fair enough. Like I said, I think we've been very fortunate the last couple weeks with our guests who are around our age, maybe a little bit older, who knew what Blue's Clues was. But hey, we're gonna get into people who are younger than us here again, because I think we're all above 20 here. But Pandy,
Oh, we went like full rage quit mode. That's what happened here. What happened? They're gone.
This is weird. This is weird.
I guess we'll just finish it out.
Like, yeah, no, we're gonna finish it out. Like, I can kind of see. I know what Hunter's doing. He's probably sitting just off camera.
I'm not.
Yeah, right. And Mega, honestly, Mega might have actually left. But yeah, Pandy.
That's what you think.
Okay, they're both just off camera. All right, but Pandy, I want to thank you so much, man. Like I said, you were the first person when I started thinking about people from MLE and all the other Rocket League stuff that I've done or been fortunate enough to do about getting in here, because you've been able to do a lot, and then you added on the traditional sports thing, which is a very interesting thing to talk about as well, and especially how you tied it in with esports. We've had it a little bit with Person in the past when they were on, but that was all the way back in episode 1. We were trying to figure out how this podcast actually was supposed to go. But hey, man, thank you so much. Hopefully me and you get the cast again, because if we have anything like what happened, all right, I like that answer.
We will.
But if we get anything like what happened with the Spectre of the Jets, I swear to God, if we see 3 shots get pulled off the post again, I'm gonna have a mental fucking.
It was like 6.
Yeah, but 3 shots in a row was insane.
Oh yeah, ping, ping, ping. I gotta go back and clip that.
Oh, I clipped it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's on my Twitter. I have a reaction video for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I film myself with a second camera every cast I do, so I can have moments where I can lose my fucking shit and it's there.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, everyone, thank you so much for watching another episode of For the Love of Prod. I want to thank Hunter and Megalass, who aren't here at the moment, for being here for this one. Pandy, again, thank you so much. Make sure you guys tune in next week for another episode. Again, as always, don't know who it's going to be just yet, and you guys will learn pretty much when I do as well. But again, make sure you follow us on or subscribe us on Twitter. Follow the Spotify. Follow us Twitter, Blue Sky if you use that. But yeah, again, thank you everyone so much. Pandy, thank you so much again. And that will do it for us this week. And until then, hope you guys have a great week and see you next Tuesday.